I know of a badass kid who at age 7 slayed his first dragon, which is by no means a walk in the park.
生来就是魔丸，这是命中注定，许你个鸟命！
快乐不需要等到明天，下一秒都觉得遥远。如果自由可以不被间断，好吧，永远的做个神仙。我是莲花，若命运不公，就和他斗到底。
Having been born a reincarnation of a demon, often being misunderstood as well, sometimes passing off as androgynous, can make things a little complicated. The protagonist here is Nezha. He is the epitome of rebellious but righteous youth.
但我晓得，不认命就是哪吒的。莫非有两道火光，天上海里的神仙能奈我何妨？从不惧任何世俗凡人的目光，我要奔向前方那光芒。
So the Nezha is a protection deity. He has different manifestations. The ones that we know will be 三太子, which is the third prince, or 莲花三太子, which is the lotus, the prince or lotus flower, third prince, and the 三太子 in battle form, and it's called 三头六臂. So he's got 3 faces, 3 heads, and 6 arms carrying different or bearing different weapons. So I was talking to a fellow YouTuber, Kelvin, who's well versed in Hu Ye and Hu Jiangjun. So if you're interested in Hu Ye and Hu Jiangjun, do check out Kelvin's YouTube channel. I'll place the link here. I've learned so much from him. Since the time that we met till now, we've been discussing a couple of deities and things like that. And he brought my attention to 2 more different 三太子 manifestations that I've never seen or heard before. So one of them is a 九龙三太子 or 九龙太子爷. So it's Nezha or 三太子 standing on 9 dragons, which is pretty cool when you look at the effigy. And the other battle form, or even stronger, a more intense or a more powerful battle form compared to the 三头六臂三太子, is actually the 三头八臂三太子. So it's 3 heads or 3 faces with 8 arms bearing different weapons. So thanks to Kelvin, I've expanded my repertoire of the different types of 三太子 that's available. So the Nezha born or reborn in this case in from lotus root.
轻轻散散，莲花降落人间，命途婉转，赤心背脊朝天。
It's a much different and better self compared to his previous rebellious and destructive nature. So he's now known for being brave and for heaps of respect and responsible person and virtue. So that being said, the Jade Emperor, the Yuhuang Dadi actually conferred upon him the title of the chief commander of the 36 celestial heaven beings that guard the gates. So 三太子 is also then known as 中坛元帅, which means he's the marshal of the central altar. So the role of the 中坛元帅 is he will then command the generals of the 5 directions of the 5 altars, namely north, south, east, west, and 三太子 being the center. And this is called the 武功升降. He not only then commands these 5 generals, he also then 开路 or paved the way for the principal deities when they go out and about on their religious possessions or processions, sorry. So usually when one visits a Taoist temple, you'll see not only one, but more often 2 or 3 more 三太子 manifestation effigies dotted around or peppered around the temple, because he acts as the vanguard for all the other deities enshrined within that temple. So there are temples peppered in Hong Kong, San Shui Bo. This one, which is a really popular tourist destination because it was founded by Hakka people. Also in Taiwan and in Singapore, of San Tai Zi temples, or San Tai Zi being the main deity of these temples. And one to really note is the Tian Teck Keng temple in Singapore. So the Tian Teck Keng temple in Singapore has its origins in the kampong, way off, in Balestier Road, ages and ages ago. It's got more than 98 years of history under its belt. The urn that's actually still used till this day is dated back in 1922. So this is the only temple in Singapore that enshrines San Tai Zi in its battle form as its main deity. So we're talking about the 三头六臂莲花三太子. So it's 3 faces or 3 heads, 6 arms, lotus flower, third prince. I know it's a mouthful, but yeah, this is the only temple in Singapore rich in history and culture and heritage, dated way back in from 1922 or even before that, because it's got more than 98 years history tucked under its belt, worshipping the main deity, 三头六臂莲花三太子. So back in the day when there were no temples, the families of the kampong would gather together once a year to pray, of course, to San Tai Zi's feast day, which is, on the in the Chinese calendar, is the 8th day of the 4th lunar month, and they would actually gather together and offer their offerings and prayers, and also at the same time they'll be choosing the Lord Chu, the main altar house for the next year, because when they first started they don't actually have a temple building inside, so they're actually moving San Tai Zi together with the urn from home to home to home, depending on who wants to host him for the year. So what happens is they will pua pui, meaning they'll be throwing the divine moon blocks. They look like half moon shapes. One's flat on the bottom with a more of a curved top, and it's maybe about this in size, and it's quite little. There'll be probably 2 half moons that look like this. I did mention them earlier on in my Ghost Bride video as well. And these pua pui is when you throw these blocks, it's for us to actually obtain answers from the deity that we're praying to.
太子爷，我最后的心肝内，伊若有爱我吼，你就我这心杯呢。
So obviously the villager, who is keen to host San Tai Zi for the year, he or she will, ask us questions, and then throw the blocks. And if one is, they're both in opposite directions, so one up and then one flat, which means yes, I will go to your house this year. So please get ready to welcome me. And the villager will take the San Tai Zi deity effigy as well as the urn to his back home, and then that would, that cycle will start again the next year. So in terms of this particular temple, Tian Teck Keng temple has come a long way in terms of history in Singapore and Taoism. So it's got humble beginnings way back in the kampong of Balestier Road, and it's moved on to a couple of a little wooden shack, and now it's moved to Tampines Link. So I'll be doing a couple of other videos moving forward if you're interested in this particular subject in terms of San Tai Zi, and also in this Tian Teck Keng. I'll be dwelling for deeper into this particular temple, and also the Wugong Shengjiang, the 5 direction generals, which have always interested me because growing up when I was young in Singapore during the 7-month or Hungry Ghost Month festival, I used to see all these tents being built, and what drew my attention were 5 paper horses, and they look so alive, and they were actually being fed like literally stuff, grass in their mouth, and like pails of offerings and water, and they're called kunbei as well. And so I'll be dwelling further into that because I think it's a really interesting subject, and you might not be able to find such things in English. So I like to hopefully be able to shine a light into the history of Taoism in Singapore, all these different Sintua and temples playing their part to reignite the fire of Taoism in Singapore, as well as the rich history and background behind all these different practices.
如果你问我人能否改变自己的命运，我也不晓得。
风跟着我飞，有2道火光，天上海里的神仙能奈我何妨？从不拘泥任何世俗凡人的目光，我要奔向前方那光芒。是非黑白不需要你讲，我要燃烧所有生命赐予的力量，化作莲花。轻轻散洒，莲花降落人间，命途婉转，赤心背脊朝天，通天遁地，洞晓世间百态，脚踩星河踏月，不惧万